Welcome to the Alberta Bound podcast. I'm Sarah Hainsworth, entrepreneur, mortgage broker, and your guide to investing in Alberta real estate. Today we have Rebecca Pickens with Frost Appraisals. She is an expert when it comes to property values here in Alberta. Not only is Rebecca an authority in appraisals, she's also a passionate advocate for clear, client-friendly advice. Okay, welcome to the Alberta Bound podcast. I'm Sarah Hainsworth, entrepreneur, mortgage broker, and your guide to investing in Alberta real estate. Today's guest is Rebecca Pickens from Frost Appraisals. She is the go-to expert on property values here in Alberta. Not only is Rebecca an authority in appraisals, she's also a passionate advocate for clear, client-friendly advice. Rebecca, thanks for joining us. Before we dive in, would you mind sharing a bit about your journey and what brought you into the appraisal world?
Hi, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I am a candidate member with the Appraisal Institute of Canada, and I have been an appraiser now with Frost Valuations for 8 years. My journey actually started behind the scenes of an appraiser in the admin role, assigning jobs across Canada. Lo and behold, I decided this is what I wanted to do. So here I am, 8 years into the career, providing clarity to your transactions. Looking forward to diving into today of the appraisal journey and how I can provide some insight.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so what's one thing you wish that every homeowner understood before their property is appraised?
Well, every bank and lending institution has their own policies. And I have to oblige by them. So as much as I can say I can be consistent in every appraisal, unfortunately, there are terms applied to somebody's specific situation. So typically, though, my job, is I'm required to come to the property, do a walkthrough of all the rooms, garage, or outbuildings that are there.
Yeah. Have you ever had people that are like, you can't go in this room or something like that?
Yes, can be a red flag to a lender potentially. So I do recommend gaining access into all the rooms. I work around a sleeping baby or whatever situation might present itself, or dogs. We have to shuffle some animals around the house. But nonetheless, it is a great idea to provide less risk to the appraisal and having an appraiser gain access into every room.
Yeah. So can you walk us through the appraisal process from start to finish?
Sure. So working with a mortgage broker or lender, they may have internal processing systems that are able to not require a service from myself, maybe. However, if I am contacted, my job as an appraiser is to reach out to the applicant. This property will likely be for maybe purchase or refinance, or to assist with a sale in advance, maybe even with a mortgage broker, working with some lenders in mind. So my first priority is to gain access into that dwelling. And so, yes, either if it's tenant occupied, I may have to give notice, or the homeowner has to give notice, or arrange access with a listing agent.
One thing I think people don't realize is that sometimes we are able to order appraisals directly. So that means I can reach out, or me and my team can reach out directly to you. We can run properties by you and say, hey, are we out to lunch with this? Is this on par with what you're seeing? But sometimes we can't. Sometimes we go in blind, and sometimes we have to use third-party systems to get the appraiser to the property. I really, really appreciate when I'm able to order direct, because it makes the process a lot easier and we kind of know what we're up against. I've definitely had experiences where, let's say, an appraiser has given me a value that is way different than something that I thought we were going to get. I think I actually have reached out to you for help in those situations. I know at the very beginning, it's really nice when we're able to order those directly. But okay, so we order it, the order comes through, whether it comes directly from us or it comes through the third-party system. Then you gain access to the dwelling, and then you go through, you take pictures, you actually do measurements as well, right?
Yes. So I will take some measurements. Typically do have access to assessment records, as well as maybe the real estate agent has gone ahead and done professional RMS measurements, which is fantastic, but not always necessary. So it is still my job to do a measurement of the dwelling. I'm looking for permanent improvements. What flooring is there, cabinetry, lighting, any recent upgrades to the property? Has there been any deficiencies on the property? Maybe there's a broken window. Maybe there is a smell. That can happen too.
Do you record that if there is a smell? Is that something that's in your report?
Well, in a situation where potentially you have many animals, it has come up on a property where there were probably over 50 cats in a dwelling.
What? Oh my goodness.
And yes, there was a smell.
Yeah, well, there would be, right?
At that point, it's in the drywall, and potentially remediation is required to bring this home up to what we consider a normal standard. So yes, I am the eyes, ears, boots on the ground for that lender to really understand what's going on in this dwelling.
Okay, so in a situation like that, how do you balance the technical side of appraising while still keeping the homeowner at ease?
Well, I miss the COVID era days, believe it or not, where I could tell people just to sit on a couch and stay there. Nonetheless, everybody's always so curious, and I'm more than willing to help educate while I'm doing my walkthrough. Every situation is different. Sometimes people are chatty. Sometimes I do just frankly mute it out. And I might appear rude, but I am focusing on what I need to do my job efficiently.
Yeah. Okay. I'm always so curious because you really are boots on the ground. So you're going into these people's homes, and have you seen things maybe that would be interesting, I guess? Like, what's the most interesting thing that you've come across in a home?
Every year I say I've seen it all, and then something surprises me.
Yeah.
So is it a tree that's growing in a pool in the backyard?
Oh my gosh.
Is it a pool that's been half covered in a dwelling? There's been some unique situations, definitely, for sure. And nonetheless, it's my job to still come in and make sure to the bank that there's nothing concerning going on.
Yeah, and I guess there probably is concerning things happening sometimes, right?
It can happen, yeah. There's a few times a year that I'm, a bit taken back at first, but nonetheless, you just push through and just get through the property. Yes. Hoarder houses, yes. Properties with open sewer lines, yes.
Oh my gosh. I think it was with you. I'm not 100% sure, but there was a specific property we had. They were growing things in there that they shouldn't be growing. Let's just say that.
When it does come to the green variety, there actually is quite strict rules within the Appraisal Institute of Canada that we have to follow. So we can actually mention the word and how many maybe products are in the area. My job would be then is to describe how the room is manipulated. Is there a chance of mold? But yes, I have come across that. Not as recently as it's become legal here to have so many in a dwelling. But yes, definitely have come across.
But I think even though it is legal, I don't think lenders allow it. And especially I think insurance, but don't quote me on that.
I cannot mention the word in it.
Yes.
I cannot take photographs of it. So there are some rules that I still need to go through to be compliant with the Appraisal Institute of Canada.
Okay, let's do something fun. Let's do a little bit of Alberta appraisal trivia, if you will. Okay, so what is the most common reason for appraisal complications in rural Alberta?
Ooh, rural are always another interesting factor that definitely can bring up some concerns. I'm going to guess is to do with the water system in place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, septic, anything like that, that is definitely cause for concern in some areas. Okay, so true or false, a finished basement always increases a home's appraised value?
Yes. So at the end of the day, in my opinion here, we appraise the above grade, and then we do consider the basement on a separate line. Now, there are some appraisers out there that include and lump all the bathrooms maybe together. There may be different ways of showing it. However, yes, a basement will always increase value to a degree.
Yeah. Okay, on average, how many comparables do Alberta appraisers use for standard single-family homes?
So from our institute, we have a minimum standard of 3 that we have to use. And it's one of the things that, depending on the lender's requirements, I may be using more in order to meet their terms as well. It may not be what I think is the best comparable to use, but I may have to use something in order to, for example, maybe bracket a property below or above the value that I'm concluding at. And so even though maybe there's not a property in the subject's neighborhood, maybe I'm traveling or maybe I'm making more adjustments. So yes, I might add in a fourth or fifth comparable to be compliant with the lender. But in my notes, I'm putting more emphasis on why I may be concluding at the value I'm at due to one of my comparables in there for reasons.
Okay, so what's one thing that will never be considered in an appraisal report, no matter how much a homeowner loves it?
A hot tub.
Yeah, right? That's so funny. I think people, they don't realize that anything that is immovable, right, is not allowed to be considered as part of the value. Is that right?
Yeah, all those chattel items that are considered removable. So even appliances, your laundry facilities on a residential property, this is something that, yes, is not considered permanent unless you have those built-in appliances. I am typically excluding those items.
Yeah. Okay. I told you I'm always curious about what happens on your side of things. So do you have any wild stories that you can share? Maybe like an appraisal went sideways or you encountered something totally unexpected during your inspection?
I think I'm going to go back to one of my previously commented properties with a pool that was part covered.
Okay.
But the backstory of it was for a divorce purpose. And at the time, I was meeting a third-party connection to both parties. So I, of course, I had not met either party in person. Was rather shocked how there was damage into every room in the property.
Oh my goodness.
And this was quite a large estate in Strathcona County, and had to make that call to my client to say, are you aware of such damages are here? And so that was, an interesting conversation to have with somebody who's anticipating, my appraisal to come back, but not with such an interesting situation.
Oh man. Sometimes it gets messy. I mean, a lot of the time it gets messy, but I can't imagine. That would be hard to
I'm coming in for that, unbiased opinion for these parties. I have insurance that I need to obtain, and I'm not going to be swayed to be pushed high or low in something. So nonetheless, it's my job to still provide sales and give what we call a fair market value.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what? You travel to all sorts of places in and around the Edmonton area, and I know that you do a lot of rural, but inside, let's say, Greater Edmonton, do you have a favorite neighborhood or like a hidden gem that you really, really like?
Well, within Edmonton, I guess being a born and raised girl here in the city, I've always just loved Edmonton's river valley system. It is a beautiful green space. I think it's the largest in North America. And so many neighborhoods have access to this ability to be linked through a trail system. It's beautiful with lots of stair access, dog opportunities for walking. And so if you can be by a neighborhood with close access, it is definitely a perk.
Do you have like a specific one or just in general anywhere along the river valley?
Oh, well, okay, I will be biased because I grew up in Grandview Heights.
Oh, yes.
It has always been my sweet spot in Edmonton, but not for everyone's, faint of heart anyways, because it is close to the university farms. And there has occasionally been some smells when they're cleaning out pig barns or etc.
Oh my goodness. But it's so nice because it's tucked away. It's not in a busy area, though you are able to access downtown White Ave like super easily, right?
Yeah, there's many others too. Crestwood, areas of Strathcona. It really will just depend on what a particular purchaser or investor is looking for in terms of amenities, but so many great neighborhoods that are close to ravines that I would be like, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so outside of work, what are some of your favorite ways to recharge?
Outside of work, I like to get out into the nature, ground myself as much as possible in nature with my horse and or harvesting animals. I do hunt large game, believe it or not. And so trying to keep active to be able to do the sports I do and unwind and mentally unplug, I think in this industry is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that you guys hunt. I know that you and your husband are big hunters, and I think that is so cool that you get to go out and do that together. I love seeing your social media posts, and I think that is such a blessing to be able to connect with each other in that way. Very cool.
Yeah, it's one thing to be busy and you're always very grateful, but this is an industry that can be very demanding with not set schedules. It is something that you and I have had conversations off hours, either very early in the morning or late at night.
Yep.
So I'm very grateful that I can have the opportunity to unplug when I do.
Yeah, I think, and you do it really well too. Well, although you do answer some of my calls and texts during your hunting time away, I guess. But yeah, it's nice because you actually, when you unplug, you really do unplug.
Yeah, I have moments. I wouldn't say it's continual, but I do. So
yeah. Okay, so is there anything like in your life outside of appraisals that influences the way that you show up for clients?
I guess as a female in this industry, it is still, I'm not breaking ceilings. That's been done for many decades now in this industry, but there's still some opinions about women in real estate, especially in an appraiser role. I have seen it maybe more so in the earlier years starting the career. I think a lot more people are more open to women nowadays, but it is something that more women are owning homes or businesses and appreciating the way a woman communicates, for example, or the ability to answer questions.
Well, I can speak to that. I love being able to pick up the phone and hop on a call with you and kind of run scenarios, numbers, figure out if this is a situation that can use your help or maybe not. Maybe we're thinking something's coming in higher than it should, or maybe the opposite. Maybe we think it's lower and you're actually saying the neighborhood or whatever, the numbers work or they don't. And I feel comfortable calling you, and I don't always necessarily have that experience, I guess, on my side of things. So I can really appreciate being also a woman in business. And yeah, no, I really do appreciate our working relationship.
Oh, I do too. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about specifically?
Well, about appraisals, I guess there are different mortgages you can get. And one key thing that I've touched base with all brokers, and it is something that still gets changed and or massaged always, is these construction or purchase plus mortgages. And it is something that has come up numerous times where there has been issues with the draw that I come out to do. Another appraiser in my office that gave me the reference as that we have to think of these as a goalpost and we cannot change these. And how may you ask? Well, construction changes all the time. So how is this possible?
Yeah.
So my job, though, is to make sure if a kitchen reno is supposed to happen, that kitchen reno looks redone. Yes, there may be some changes due to supply issues, etc. But nonetheless, you're not taking that money and doing a bathroom reno instead.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we can talk about purchase plus improvements in a way that you are there updating the lender as they go. So when a client has a purchase plus, you come through at the end of the improvements, or do you come through partway and check off if things are done accordingly, or is that different?
Every situation will be different. Sometimes I'm there multiple times depending on the draw process.
Yeah.
And so there are some times where, yes, if electrical components are, for example, part of it, I need to get in there before drywall is up.
Yeah.
And so I've had some situations where the homeowner decided not to permit electrical, why that would be when it's in the quotes. But, that was a concern that I had going, how do I know for sure this work is now done?
Yeah, we've run into issues too where clients, they've quoted out something and then they decide that they're going to do the work themselves and the work doesn't measure up to what maybe somebody would have done, or I guess the value maybe is not there because you can tell that they did it themselves, right?
I don't necessarily always get into quality, but still it needs to be a finished product.
Right. Yeah.
And so that is a common thing that does happen with these type of mortgages. They will get a high quote and then do the work themselves. So if you are planning to do this, I would say definitely be talking to your broker contact to, mitigate any potential problems that might come down, in the future.
Yeah. You do a lot of commercial stuff, and I know that that's kind of something that you love doing, right?
Yeah. I tell people residential can be very complicated. Often I can't discuss, a property details or value or share a report, even though a client paid for it.
Yes.
And so this is something that on the residential side, there are a lot of constraints due to the technical client being the lender. So the lender is usually then classified as the authorized user and client.
Yeah.
And then the person that is applying for that is considered an applicant in this situation. So they don't have the same rights as an authorized user does.
I know that's something that I run into on my side of things. People pay for the appraisal and they think that they should get it. And so they ask me for it and I have to tell them no. Like, I know that you did pay for it, but it's on the lender's behalf. And so the appraisal actually belongs to the lender, which is a difficult conversation to have. They're not very happy with me when I tell them, like, hey, no.
I'm grateful you have those conversations with those clients in advance because it helps mitigate and make me look like the big bad, wolf here, when really I am following protocol here. On commercial, now that changes. You can have direct conversations with the clients and lenders. And so if you are able to have a business loan, for example, or commercial, even though it's a residential property, yes, you can maybe order direct through me, as well as share the, appraisal report with yourself or anybody that you give me authorization to. So it's an interesting dynamic difference between the two. But nonetheless, residential and commercial, I still believe, are so linked within a city. And so you have to take a look at what other aspects are doing well in an area. And, there are, for example, some areas that office is doing better in than you might think. And therefore, maybe the residential area surrounding that might be doing better.
You do all types of appraisals, because I know you do residential, commercial, but don't you do business appraisals as well?
So we do have someone in our office that handles what we call a chartered business valuation.
Okay.
And so, yes, there are a few different options, especially on the commercial side, that we can offer depending on the lender's ask. Now, every, situation is different. Even though we can do it, maybe a lender won't accept that though.
Right.
There are appraisals on the commercial side that are considered a going concern that take, a bit of the business into account. So those appraisals are also slightly different. And then there's another form of appraisal systems and classifications that is to do with machinery and equipment. And we do have somebody in our office that also handles that. And so, for example, there may be a property that we are doing typically for divorce, but maybe purchase, like an acquisition or mergers, where they're, requiring the whole picture. And all those chattel items or equipment that aren't included in the appraisal are important, as well as what that value is of the business. So there is a perk to having the whole picture. However, every lender might only accept maybe it is the physical component of it.
Right. Yeah, there's so much that goes into your side of things that I don't always think of, right? Like, I'm in my residential area and I think of this house and what it's worth and how much equity, but your scope of work is a lot larger than that. So very interesting to hear about it.
Yeah.
Any tips for homeowners before an appraisal? So if somebody's getting an appraisal, is there anything that you could offer up to them before it happens?
Well, hopefully you are already talking to a great mortgage broker such as yourself to get the lingo and understand the process too. Or hopefully you've been listening to this podcast to gain some insight of what to expect. But my rule of thumb here is don't be going and making large changes to your home when an appraisal potentially might be due.
Right.
Communicate that with your broker. It is something that not every lender is going to assume I can complete the appraisal as if complete of those improvements. And so if it is a large amount of work that is required, I might have to come back and charge you for another appraisal.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing both your expertise and a little bit about you personally. We'll include your details in the description. And so if people want to find you, how can they find you?
LinkedIn, Frost Valuations. We just recently moved buildings here as of September, so it is quite fresh. But nonetheless, yes, serving Edmonton and surrounding areas for residential and commercial across Alberta.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah.